Hello all and welcome to lesson number 2 on BIOS repair course. I am Claudio and I will be your teacher for this course, okay? So, continuing lesson number 1, okay? Continuing lesson number 1. As I said in lesson number 1, this lesson number 2 and lesson number 1 are the most important lessons of all course. Why? Because they are the foundation that we will use on BIOS repair. If you do not understand lesson number 1 and lesson number 2, you will not be able to repair BIOS, okay? But if you fully understand lesson number 1 and this lesson number 2, you will be able to fix any kind of BIOS. For this lesson number 2, I will divide in two parts, part number 1 and part number 2. In part number 1, I will teach you how to unpack the files, and in the second part of this lesson, I will teach you how to select the BIOS region, okay? As you may know, the EEPROM is divided in almost between 5 and 4, 5 or 6 regions, okay? So for this lesson I will teach you only the BIOS region, okay? Next lesson number 3, I will teach you the ME region, okay? ME region, okay? So let's start the lesson number 2, okay? Here, so as you may know, on the computers we have BIOS of various sizes, as you can see by the image. On the last lesson number 1, we've learned how to work with the offsets. That is the reason I have said that it was a very important lesson number 1. But in this first part of the lesson number 2, I will teach you how to unpack certain kind of BIOS, okay? So I know that many of you will say that we already see how to unpack using WinRAR, WinZip, 7-zip, etc. Okay, but this lesson number 2, I will teach you about what to do when we unpack the file, when we unpack the BIOS file, and we do not find the .bin file, .rom file. Okay, so we unzip the file, unRAR the file, we unpack the file, and we don't find the BIOS in it. Okay, so this first part I will teach you how to unpack this kind of BIOS. Okay, so once again, let me say I'm sorry, okay, for my English, but my first language is not English, it's Portuguese, okay? So my English is very basic. It's not that good, okay? I'm sorry for that. If you have any questions, okay, after this lesson I will open the chat, so I can write it, I can explain it better, okay? For the offline students, if you don't understand any sentence, any word, okay, just email me, Skype me, okay, Facebook, and I will explain better, okay? So for this lesson number 2, okay, I will use the schematic of ASA E1421 AMD project. Okay, so there is some difference between Intel BIOS and AMD BIOS that we will see along this course, okay? But as we are still beginning, taking the first steps in this area, okay, in BIOS repair, let's start by using an easy BIOS so you can follow me, so you can understand, okay? As all my courses, okay, I always use schematic. Even for this BIOS repair course, okay, I will use schematic, okay? Schematic is the foundation for us technician repair computers, okay? So as we can see, so we follow this schematic, and we can see that this BIOS is presented on page number 10, okay? So we must go to the page number 10 to see this BIOS, okay? So in picture we have page number 10 where we can see the BIOS with the silk screen U14 right here, where's my mouse is, okay, with the silk screen U14, Okay, this BIOS is a 4 megabyte BIOS. How is that? Just looking at this diagram, how can we know the size of this specific BIOS? Okay, simple, quite simple. The number, where's my mouse? Okay, the number 32. Okay, the number 32 represented in BIOS must be divided by 8. Okay, so 32 divided by 8 equals 4. If instead of 32 we had here 16, we had to divide it by 8. Okay, 16. Okay, if instead of 32 we had here 16, we had to divide it 16 by 8. Okay, 16 divided by 8 equals 2 megabytes. Okay, if instead of 13 or 16 we had here 8, so 8 divided by 8 equals 1. Okay, this BIOS would be 1 megabyte. Okay, so 32 divided by 8 equals 4. This BIOS, this U14, is 4 megabytes here. Okay, so knowing this information, we know that we are dealing with a 4 megabytes BIOS. Okay, so next step, we will go to the manufacturer's website and download the manufacturer's BIOS from the website. Okay, so Acer website, Acer Aspire E1 421. Okay, we select BIOS. We have drivers, documents, BIOS, patch, application, and operating system. So for this course, we need only BIOS. Okay, right here. So in image, we have 3 files that we can download it from the website. Okay, but as we saw, U14, the BIOS is 4 megabytes. Okay, 32 divided by 8 equals 4. Okay, 4 megabytes. So here we have a 4 megabytes BIOS. Let's check again. We have 3. Okay, right here we have 3 files to download. Okay, firmware HD. Okay, this is Western Digital. Okay, this belongs to the HDD, hard disk drive. Okay, up we have 3.1 megabytes. Okay, our BIOS is 4 megabytes. Okay, not enough data. BIOS Acer version 1.08, 5.3 megabytes. Okay, as we have our U14 with 4 megabytes, it's obvious we need to download the 5.3 megabytes. Okay, this is the file we need to download. Okay, we don't need the 3.1 and we don't need this 174 KB. Okay, we don't need this. Okay, we need this 5.3 megabytes. Okay, and we will download it this and keep it on a folder. Too long. Okay, and keep it in a folder that we know. Okay, easy to follow. Okay, folder, just simple. Okay, right here, this is my folder. Okay, BIOS course, BIOS lesson, lesson 2, BIOS test, BIOS Acer 1.08. Okay, it's right here, 1.08. This is my folder. Okay, this is my folder. Windows ZKZ 108. Okay, this is my folder and I unzipped all this. Okay, but Claudio, you didn't show how to unzip. Okay, lesson number 1. Okay, I'm not going to repeat all the steps from lesson number 1 because this was all taught on lesson number 1. Okay, just simple, just click with the right button of your mouse or touchpad. Okay, and then just choose the option extract to. Okay, and all this information will be shown to you. Okay, here. So here, okay. So usually, using lesson number 1, we would have here the BIOS, okay, the .bin, .rom, okay, right here. But as we can see, we don't have our BIOS here, okay. This is 1 megabyte, 32 KB, kilobytes, 60 kilobytes. There's nothing here, okay. There's nothing with 4 megabytes, 5 megabytes, and we just unzipped like we have done before on lesson number 1, okay. But in lesson number 1, we found here our BIOS, okay. But in this lesson number 2, I'm teaching you another way to find the BIOS. Why, Claudio? Because in certain kind of BIOS, when you unzip the file, the BIOS will not appear, okay. The BIOS will not be here. So we need to learn where is this BIOS file. Okay, so usually when we unpack a file, we get the BIOS file in the same folder, like we have learned on lesson number 1. But here in this case, when we unpack the file, we can see that the BIOS is not here on this .rar file. This means that the BIOS is protected. This means that the BIOS is hidden. This means that the BIOS is not at the full site, okay. So we need to get it, so we can reprogram our EEPROM, and the EEPROM may function, okay. So first and foremost, we have to clean our temporary folder or temp folder. To this, we can do it manually, manually clean, or we can use a software for this. Okay, so for this lesson number 2, we will use a software called CCleaner, okay, sorry, CCleaner, okay, but I prefer clean manually, okay, it's faster. So for this lesson, I will give you an option of using a software, a CCleaner, okay. In CCleaner, we choose the option temporary files, okay. I'm sorry because this is in Portuguese. I'm Portuguese, I live in Portugal, okay, I'm sorry. But all softwares are in Portuguese. My computer is in Portuguese, okay. So this means temporary files, okay, and I'm going to clean all temporary files. Just after I have all my temporary files clean, I will find my BIOS file, okay, here. So I'm going to use CCleaner to clean all my temporary files, okay. Cleaning complete, 373 megabytes removed, okay, cleaned, and my computer is clean, my temporary file is clean, okay. So let's look again at the folder we unzipped, and as we can see, no BIOS here, okay. We still don't have our BIOS file, okay, so we don't have the file we want. So what we have to do to find our BIOS file? Simple. First, let's go to drive C, okay. This is in Portuguese, disco local C, okay. In English, drive C, okay, local drive C, okay. First and foremost, click on your drive C, okay. Then you go to folder named users, okay, users, okay, drive C first, and then second, users. You click OK, you click enter in drive users, and then in the users folder right here, choose your profile, okay. So I'm using my profile for my company, okay, LOE motherboards, okay. So you need to use the profile you are using at the moment, okay. Don't use any other profile on your computer. You need to use the profile you are using at the moment, okay. In my case, I'm using the profile of my company, okay. LOE motherboards. Let me say it again. You need to use the profile you are using at the moment, your profile. Okay, don't use any other profile or you will not find the BIOS file. You need to use the profile you are using at the moment. Okay, so we choose the profile we are using at the moment and we click enter. After that, upon entering the user profile, we need to look for a folder named app data. Okay, if that folder called app data is not present, we will have to choose the option show hidden file. Okay, in my case, the folder app data is not present. Okay, it doesn't appear. Then I will have to pick that option on my hidden files. How to do that? First, you go to control panel. Okay, control panel. This is in Portuguese. Control panel first. Second, here, folder options. Number 2, folder option. Okay, just follow these steps. Control panel 1, second, folder options, and click enter. Number 3, view. Okay, this is in Portuguese. This is general. This is view. In English, this is search. Okay, number 3, click in view. Number 4, show folders, drivers, and hidden files. Okay, and you click option right here. Oops. And you click option right here. Let me just pick up my pen and we'll choose this option right here. Okay, right here, show folders, drivers, and hidden files right here. Okay, and press OK and press OK. So after that, it will appear your hidden file folder, your hidden folder named app application data. Okay, app data. Okay, it will appear as an hidden file. Okay, so click app data, local folder, local, enter. Inside of local folder, we will search for temporary folder, temporary files. Okay, temp meaning temporary, temp right here. Okay, and we will click enter, and we will have right here this temporary folder. Okay, 7-zip S6CE8. Okay, right here, this is our temporary folder with the BIOS inside. Okay, with the BIOS inside, and we can see, okay, this was made at 28, okay, day October 2015, 3:30 a.m. Okay, 3:30 a.m. So as we can see, we have here our temporary folder. Okay, so let's open this folder. Okay, we click on it, enter, and as we can see, we have found our BIOS. Okay, so for those many of you who would saying at the beginning of this lesson, oh no, this lesson is equal to lesson number 1. Okay, as you can see, this lesson is not equal to lesson number 1. In lesson number 1, I have taught you that BIOS is inside the folder when we unzip the folder. Okay, when we unzip the .rar, .zip, okay, folder. For this lesson number 2, I am teaching you what to do when we unzip the file and the BIOS is not inside that unzipped file. Okay, when we unzip the file and the BIOS is not inside that folder that was unzipped, we need to go to temporary folders. Okay, so here we have our BIOS. Okay, .fd file decrypted. FD means file decrypted. Okay, with 4 megabytes. Okay, this means 4 megabytes. As we saw on the schematic, this BIOS is 4 megabytes. Now let me tell you why we use the schematic. We always use schematic. HDD repair, BIOS repair, LCD repair, motherboard repair. We always use schematic. Okay, that's why all our courses that we have, we always use schematic. Okay, because schematic is a tool that we have to fix everything that is inside the computer. Okay, the schematic will tell us how many BIOS there is and the size of it. Okay, because that is very important. Using a schematic is very important because sometimes when BIOS is corrupted, we will have less information or more information, right? So with schematic on hands, we will know the exact size of that BIOS. We will know if there's one BIOS or two BIOS. Okay, if there's a EC BIOS or KBC BIOS and main BIOS, what is the size of each one? So imagine this. You have a computer that your client brought to you, and that computer came from another technician that he erased the original BIOS, and you don't know the size of that BIOS. You don't know what BIOS was that. What to do? Schematic. In the schematic, you will know the exact size of the BIOS. Okay, because when you download the website BIOS comes completely. How can I explain this in fully English? Okay, the original BIOS from the website, that BIOS doesn't come. Let me see if I can explain this. Okay, without confusing myself or confusing you. Okay, when we download the BIOS from the manufacturer, okay, we need to work on that BIOS. We need to code it. We need to remove the header. We need to remove the bottom. Okay, and sometimes we do not know when that BIOS ends. Okay, sometimes we don't know where that BIOS ends. That's why we need the schematic. Okay, with the schematic, we know that that BIOS is 4 megabytes. So using lesson number 1, what I'm going to do, I'm going to find the beginning, okay, like we saw in lesson number 1, and then I'm going to search for the offset of 4 megabytes, and I will use the offset of 4 megabytes, and I got the bottom of the BIOS. Okay, that is important. If you sometimes people on my Facebook group ask me BIOS, okay, and I reply to them, send original BIOS and full model, right? And then he answers, I don't have the backup BIOS because it came from another person and he erased. And then I ask, send me the schematic, okay? Because with the schematic I will know how many BIOS there is in that computer and the size of it. Okay, with that information I can do something. Okay, it might work, it might not, but I have something to wrap on. Okay, something to hold on. Okay, that's why it is important to always use schematic. okay, for BIOS repair, HDD repair, hard disk drive repair, LCD repair, motherboard repair, okay, always use the schematic. Okay, my lessons I always use the schematic. Okay, I'm sorry uh for my English. Okay, again, I'm sorry for my English again. Okay. But any doubts of this lesson, okay, please, in the end of this lesson I will shut down the Bandicam recording. Okay, I will open the chat room and I will explain, okay, better. Okay, so moving on, and we have here, okay, our BIOS with 4 megabytes. Okay, so as we can see, it is 4 megabytes. We don't need to do anything else. Okay, we don't need to cut it, we don't need to remove the header or the bottom. Okay, it's 4 megabytes, is 4 megabytes. Okay, we just need to do grab this BIOS, change the name. Okay, change the name to something beautiful, ASA E1 something else. Okay, we need to change this fd to .bin.rom, and the BIOS is ready to be reprogrammed on the EEPROM. Okay, right here. So next on, we have the original BIOS taken from the computer right here. Okay, and we have the BIOS downloaded from the manufacturer's website right here. Okay, as we can see, they are both with 4 megabytes. 4 megabytes. Okay, original BIOS and the BIOS from the manufacturer's website. Okay, right here. So as we can see, when we unzip the BIOS from the manufacturer, some BIOS file like this .fd will not be present in the file that we unzipped. Okay, when we do not find the BIOS .fd, .wph, .bin, .rom, okay, when we do not find the BIOS on the unzipped folder, we need to look on the C drive, okay, application data, local temporary files, and we will find the BIOS there. Okay, why? Because BIOS is protected, BIOS is hidden. Okay, that's why, let me just go back a few steps, the BIOS is hidden. Okay, that's why we came here on step number 4 and we choose the option show folders, drivers, and hidden files. Okay, because the BIOS is hidden. When we choose this option and show hidden files, we press OK, and all that is hidden files is shown. Temporary files, 7-zip, and we have found our BIOS. Okay, because the BIOS file is hidden. Okay, então this was the lesson number 2, part 1. Okay, so let's go to the lesson number 2. Okay, lesson number 2, part 2. Okay, so for this second part of lesson number 2, I will not use the previous BIOS from ASA E1 421. Okay, why? Because it requires a little bit more practice, and we will talk later on this course. Okay, so for this lesson number 2, part number 2, I will bring you an easier BIOS to be worked so that you gradually will learn step by step. Okay, so as you can see, we will work with ASA Aspire 4738Z. Okay, so we have the original backup, we have the file that we downloaded from the ASA website. Okay, so all those steps from go to website, download, etc. Okay, we move forward. Okay, I will not show that anymore, just not to lose any time any more time. Okay, you already saw on lesson number 1 how to go to the website and download the original Acer BIOS. Okay, so after we unpack the files, we will end up with the backup files, original file from computer, Acer Aspire 4738Z, and with the BIOS from the website Acer, right here, ZK864FD. Okay, so moving back, okay, it's right here, okay, on our temporary folder. So right here, okay, ZK8, okay, it's here, the data 27 May 6 a.m. okay, right here. So let's open these two files and start work with our X workshop, okay, our X editor right here. Okay, so now we have both BIOS open in X workshop. Okay, so as we can see, they are very different. As you can see, look right here on this offset, okay, offset 0 and this offset 0. Okay, this is hexadecimal, right? 8 numbers. We write like this: 0, this X means hexadecimal, and then 8 zeros. Okay, first 4, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this X means hexadecimal. Okay, binary would be like this: 0, binary, B, 0, 0. Okay, decimal would be like this. Okay, a D, it would have a D. Okay, indicated that this would be decimal. Okay, so right here we have hexadecimal. Okay, so that's why this is called an hexadecimal workshop or hexadecimal editor. Okay, that's why we have 8 zeros. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, space right here, we have space right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, hexadecimal. Let me just clean it. Okay, so you may have a clean view. So as we can see, at this offset 0, we have all these F's, F. At this offset 0, we have 61, 87, 0, 0, 2E, 00, 00, whatever, 00, and EC. Okay, as you can see, they are not equal. Okay, both BIOS are not equal. Okay, right here. So let me just move it on. Okay, so in the original BIOS from computer, we select the line that stands out, and the line is 09. Right here, the second line 09, and we pick up and we choose, okay, 5A, A5, F0, FF. And now you ask, but Claudio, but why don't you start it with the first line, the 0 line, the offset 0? Quite simple, because this line is all F's, all F. Okay, F means 0, no data. Okay, if I choose this F's right here, what it would happen? It would happen when I copied all this information from the original bias right here and paste it on the bias from the website, from the ASA website. This bias from the website, it would find a lot of FFFs, okay, and then we would not have the certain, okay, we would not be 100% sure if it is the right FFF or not, okay, because there's a lot and a lot and a lot of FFFs in this bias from the manufacturer. Okay, so we need to copy information that stands out. Okay, we need to use information, useful information. Okay, we need to use useful information. So we will use this useful information, that information that is not equal, that is not confusing to us. Okay, so that information that stands out is this first 5A, A5, F0, 0F. Okay, so we will copy this information, this data, 5A, A5, F0, and 0F right here. Okay, and we will copy from here and paste to here. Okay, right here. Okay, we have copied from, this is the original bias from my computer, original O computer, and this is from the website, right? So let's start the confusing part, okay, but I will explain slowly so you can understand. Okay, any questions, write it down. In the end of this lesson I will open the chat and I will explain your doubts. Okay, right here we have the offset, we have seen 009. Okay, and we simple choose 5A, A5, F0, 0F. Okay, we copied all this information and we have pasted right here on the bias that we downloaded from the manufacturer right here. Okay, as you can see, really he found it, 5A, A5, F0, 0F. But let's see if this information is the same or not. Okay, let's see. First of all, in the backup bias from computer, this one right here, we have 5A, A5, F0, 0F. Okay, but this information is in the offset 09. This 5A, A5, F0, 0F, it's not on the offset 09. Okay, this 1556829 means 1.5 megabytes. So this is the offset 09 and this is the offset of 1.5 megabytes. Okay, clearly it's not the same. Okay, the offset is different, so it is not the same. Okay, second, in the backup bias from computer, the 5A, A5, F0, 0F comes after 16 Fs. Okay, comes after 16 Fs. Okay, this is called the ME region. Okay, on Intel this is called the ME region. Okay, management engine region. Okay, this is the region ME. So this data right here is followed by 16 Fs. Okay, these 16 Fs followed by 5A, A5, F0, 0Fs. Okay, this means the ME region. And let's here to the website BIOS. Okay, before 5A, A5, F0, 0F comes 3D 10 C4 83 0000. Okay, different, it's not the same. Okay, we have the same group of hexadecimal numbers. Okay, but we can see the position, we can see the before and after, it's not equal. Okay, so they are not the same, they are not equal. Okay, so let's try another thing. Okay, so we choose the BIOS from the website right here. We choose the BIOS from the website right here with this W. We choose the BIOS from the website right here. Okay, and then we will select the first hexadecimal group of numbers. Okay, 61 87 00 right here. Okay, and we copy, as we can see by this blue rectangle right here, and we copy all this information right here. Okay, why? To be pasted right here on the original BIOS from computer, to be pasted right here on the original BIOS from computer. Okay, to what? To see if we can find this information right here from the BIOS from the website. If we find this information right here on the original from computer. Okay, as we saw on lesson number 1, we choose the option find, the binocular symbol. Okay, find, and then we pass this information, this data right here, 61 87 00 00. Okay, we copy and we pass it to here. Okay, don't forget this is hexadecimal values. Okay, this is not text, but this is X values. Okay, we pass it here where it says value, and then we press OK. And let's see if this information right here, it's here. Let's see if we find this information here. Okay, and it came with an error. It says the specified search string was not found. Okay, what this means? This means that there is no such string in the backup BIOS from computer. And what can we do to fix this and make this BIOS from the website work? One note, okay, one observation: we will not use the BIOS from computer. Why? That BIOS is damaged. We only use that BIOS for reference. Okay, the BIOS from computer, the original BIOS from computer, is only for reference. Okay, we will not use it. So if this information is not if this information 61 87 0000 is not present on the original BIOS, how can we fix this so we can have the BIOS from the website, from the ESA website, to work on? Okay, so quite simple. Okay, so we first have to know if this board is Intel or AMD. If this board this board is with us, okay, so it's simple. Just check the CPU. Okay, if CPU is Intel, this board is Intel. If the CPU is AMD, this board is AMD. Quite simple. Okay, but if someone asks me for help, okay, how can I know if this board is Intel or AMD? In that case, you will have to see through the schematic. Okay, the schematic will tell you if this board is AMD project or Intel project. Okay, so the schematic will tell you two things: if this project is Intel or AMD and the BIOS size. Okay, it will tell you the size of the BIOS and the number of the BIOS, one BIOS or two BIOS. Okay, so that's why the schematic is very important. Okay, but if you have the board in front of you, okay, you will know if the board is Intel or AMD. Okay, so AMD BIOS brings only one region, okay, which is called the BIOS region. On Intel BIOS, it will bring two regions, okay? It's the ME region and the BIOS region, okay? That I will talk further in this course. So, here we have the decimal and the offset, okay? So, here in this picture, we have the size of each BIOS and the offset, okay? Decimal, 32 kilobytes, 64 kilobytes, 128 kilobytes. The offset of each 32 kilobytes, the offset is 32768. 64 kilobytes, 65536. 128 kilobytes, 131062. Okay, this is the offset, and this is the value in decimal. Okay, and this is the value in decimal. Okay, so what to do? Knowing that we have a 2 megabyte BIOS, we will have an offset of 2097152. Okay, this BIOS is a 2 megabytes BIOS. Okay, so knowing that we have a BIOS, a 2 megabyte BIOS, we will have an offset of 2097152. Okay, and this is the value that we will work. Okay, so knowing that this BIOS is 2 megabytes, we need to go to choose. We need to go to the options named Go To. Okay, that is at the top of this software. Okay, and when we choose Go To, we simply insert 2097152. Okay, and this software will take us to the offset right here. It will take us to the offset 02097144. Remember that the offset of 2 megabytes is 152 and not 144. Okay, so 144 is right here. 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, and 152 right here, where is this red circle, okay, where this arrows is pointing, and we have this red circle right here. Is the offset 2097152. Okay, right here where this red circle is. So here we have the BIOS we need. Okay, with this information in hand, we will select from the value right here 2097152 right here, and we will select all this information to the top until the offset 0 right here, until the offset 0, remembering that this BIOS is the original from computer. Okay, this is the original from computer, so we choose from the offset of 2 megabytes until the offset 0. As you can see right here, we select all this, okay, to the top. After we select all this information right here, the whole block that goes from the offset 0 to the offset 2097152. Let's copy all this information, as we can see right here. Control plus C right here, and we will paste on the BIOS that we have downloaded from the website. Okay, remember once again that we will not use the BIOS we took from the computer. Why? Because this BIOS is damaged. We only will use it as a reference, for we will set up a new BIOS using the BIOS we downloaded from the ASA website. Okay, so we copy all this information and paste in the BIOS that we downloaded from the website. Okay, from the ASA website to here. Okay, so on the BIOS that we downloaded from the website, we will find right here the offset of 2 megabytes. Remembering is 2097152. Okay, so we will select all this information here to the top, to the offset 0. We will choose all this information right here, okay, to the top, and we will delete it. Okay, so as we can see, and we delete it. Why we will delete all this information? Quite simple, because we need to do substitute, replace this information by this one right here. This one was copied to be placed right here. Okay, but we cannot place this information right here without deleting all this information that we have here. Okay, so we will delete all this information to be replaced by this information, by this MEA region. Okay, we will remove all this, and we will place the MEA region. It's these 2 megabytes of MEA region. This MEA region sizes is 2 megabytes. It's 2 megabytes. Okay, all this MEA region that I will explain in lesson number 3. Right here, 2 megabytes, and we will replace by these 2 megabytes of garbage. Okay, of nothing useful to us. Okay, these 2 megabytes right here. Okay, so we will delete all this information, all this unuseful information. Okay, we will delete it. Okay, as we can see, we delete all that information. Okay, after we delete, as we can see, offset 0, we have all F's, meaning that we have 0 values right here. Okay, we have nothing here. Okay, we have 0 values right here. Okay, so after we delete the data from the BIOS, from the website BIOS, we will paste the data copied from the backup BIOS from computer, replacing all that information that we have deleted before. Okay, so we will paste right here. We will paste this information to the website BIOS right here. Okay, so all this information that was replaced, or all this information that was here and I copied through here, is marked as this. Let me see, where's my mouse? It's here. Okay, it's marked as red. Okay, so all the data that have been passed are in red color. Okay, so we can differentiate what was here, what was here, and what is new here. Okay, so right here what we have done was to replace the MEA region, right? Because this is an Intel BIOS. Only Intel BIOS has MEA region. So what we have done, we simply replace MEA region. Okay, and now BIOS are equal, and this BIOS from the website ASA is ready to be inserted, to be programmed on my EEPROM so the computer will work. Okay, so this was, oops, sorry. So this was lesson number 2. Okay, I would like to say sorry for Friday. Okay, I could not give lesson number 2 Friday. Something wrong with my net. Okay, I couldn't connect. Something was wrong here. Okay, the signal was weak, and the classroom was always falling down. Okay, so we could not uh, give the lesson number 2 on Friday. Okay, it was really impossible. Okay, we were unable because the classroom, as you saw, was always falling down, and we had to quit. Okay, so this is lesson number 2. Okay, tomorrow we will have lesson number 3, and I will talk a little bit more about EMEA region. Okay, so uh, in this lesson, okay, lesson number 2, as I was saying in the beginning of this lesson, lesson number 1 and lesson number 2 are the most important lessons of this course. Okay, study and study, practice and practice. Okay, this course is 80% practice and 20% theoretical. Okay, you need to practice and practice a lot. Okay, so in this lesson I taught you, okay, when you unzip the BIOS from the website, from the manufacturer's website, when you download the BIOS, when you cannot find the BIOS file in the extract folder, just go to application data, local temporary files, and you will find it. Okay, in the second part I taught you, okay, how to rebuild a BIOS. Okay, we saw an ASA Intel project BIOS. Okay, and I taught you, okay, how you can rebuild the BIOS. Okay, lesson number 3, I will explain about EMEA region. Okay, I'm just going to close Bandicam. Okay, I will open the chat, and if you have any doubts, any questions, okay, here in Portugal is 5 a.m. okay, in India in India it's 9 o'clock, okay, 9 a.m. And this class is dismissed. Okay, I'm just close Bandicam and I will open the chat so you can post your questions. Okay.